coconut flour. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's see if I can do this. Let's go. I am Darius. This is Sugarless Crystals, your sugar-free destination of YouTube. And today we have a recipe. Today we have an informational video on coconut flour. Now, coconut flour has a very bad rep, and for good reasons, because I swear, like, that stuff is, it's a pain. It really is. It can be. Made from other people in the past. I just constantly see the same thing over and over again. And that's a super dry, crumbly, rough. Like, I don't know. Okay, so the dryness, when I say dry, I mean the cake itself is dry, or the cookie, or the muffin, whatever you want to call it, is dry. But then it's rough because it also has a dry swallow to it. It's like a, yeah, it's one of those. Coconut flour is really good for that. So how do you combat that? These are some of the ugly things. Those are some of the ugly things, but there is a resolution to these things. But allow me to stop saying but for one reason. Allow me to start out with the basics. Of course, if you guys know, I just did an almond flour video not too long ago. I'll put that in the card and in the description box below. It was only right for me to do a coconut flour video. So where does coconut flour come from actually? It comes from coconuts, all right? It is also a gluten-free, low-carb flour, and I was supposed to have it right there. 1 second. As you can see, I have Anthony sitting back here now. And what it is it's milled from dried out coconut meat. That's all it is. It's literally, it's coconut. And you can't get more. I mean, it's the same thing with almond flour. Almond flour is just milled almonds. That's the wonderful thing about making it natural, I guess you could say. And like I said, you know, coconut does not contain any gluten, so there's no gluten added, and there's no gluten in the flour itself. Some of the nutrition facts I'll read off to you right now. 2 tablespoons is 60 calories. Total fat, 2 grams. Total carbohydrates, 8 grams. Dietary fiber, 6. So it's 2 grams of carbohydrates, or 2 grams net carbs for every 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, and 2 grams of protein. I like to use this brand right here, Anthony's, and I also use Bob's. The thing is, for cost wise, that's cheaper. But Bob's and Anthony's are both very good. There are other brands too. There's a brand that's in a can. Let me check and see if I still have it. Okay, this one right here. Coconut Secret raw coconut flour. This one's good as well. And this one's cheaper, like Anthony's. But like I said, Bob's is gonna be the far more expensive one. Bob's does great products, but as far as money wise, you definitely probably gotta be in the top 15% in income to afford it. There's literally nothing in here. I don't even know why I still have this can. Trash. Since we know where it comes from, what does it do? Oh man, what does it do? Okay, so coconut flour is notorious for being very absorbent. I'll show you a side-by-side comparison of this now. This is coconut flour and almond flour, both with the same amount of water. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of water to both of them, and you'll see the difference. This is also going to be a tablespoon of coconut flour and a tablespoon of almond flour. So you'll see how they both react in the process. So how does this play into your baking? It plays a lot. So almond flour, what it will do is it'll expand a little bit actually when it's cooking. But see, the coconut flour, like, it already expanded. So there's no room for anything else. So the only thing it could possibly do is clump together. And this is why you get your dryness aspect, because the almond flour, it doesn't absorb everything, but it bakes nicely. It rises nicely, which we'll also get into later on. But see, coconut flour doesn't do these things. Coconut flour is a very rough rise. It is possible to rise. People that say it won't rise, that's a lie. It will rise, if you know what you're doing anyway. But something that I've also noticed is in the batters, in almond flour, it needs to be somewhat gritty, but not too gritty, because you need room for the almonds to expand. But coconut flour, you want it to be kind of together. You want it to be you want it to be a thicker batter, but it shouldn't be so thick as in it's a paste. It should still be thin enough to where if you will put it in a pan, you could shake it down. Now, when I do my coconut flour cookies, which I don't have any on the website, but I do have some in the cookbook, But when I do my coconut flour cookies, the batter is thicker in the sense of it's thick enough to scoop. But if you look at it and when it bakes, you'll be able to tell a huge difference in between my almond flour cookies and my coconut flour cookies, especially in the batter. How can you get it to rise? Well, to get it to rise comes in the batter as well. The thicker the batter is, the less likely it is to rise. So what you want to do is you want to add a little air in there for the baking powder or baking soda to actually be able to react. That's why if you notice when you have almond flour, it just poofs, like, because there's air in there. Coconut flour, like I said, everything clumps together, there's no air. My secret to coconut flour, to make it moist, to make it soft, to make it very palatable, and to make it so it never dries out, it's whey protein isolate. I will link it down below. I highly recommend that you guys get you some of this, especially if you're someone who likes to bake with coconut flour. I myself am a huge fan of coconut flour when it comes to my baked goods. The best texture is gonna come from almond flour and coconut flour, hands down. But coconut flour, okay, so there's some issues with almond flour when it comes to how many nuts you're ingesting. Then, you know, they're saying that almond flour goes rancid. I've also heard that. I don't know how true it is, but it's definitely been brought up to me. Now, what does whey protein isolate do? Now, for those that don't know, gluten is a protein. Whey isolate protein is a protein as well, but it doesn't behave like gluten, but it still has, there's that but again. Yet it still has the properties that gluten has as far as binding. So what this does is whenever the coconut tries to bind together or when it clumps together, that whey protein isolate kind of gets in between the cracks and it loosens the crumb up. And how it does this, I guess just simply science and it just being a protein, adding protein into the mixture. Why you don't need an almond flour and coconut flour mixture is because the almond flour kind of takes the place of the whey protein isolate, and also the almond flour is in a much larger volume. Almond flour is the base, coconut flour is the additive. In this, coconut flour is the base and whey protein is the additive. Really, I prefer to go half and half. If you want a crunchier outside, I would lean on the more protein, whey protein isolate side, but that's debatable. But to be honest, I find that just half and half normally works the best, or either the majority or sometimes about 70-30. 70-30, 60-40, somewhere around there. So coconut flour can actually be, it could be done very well. I think so. Like, it's just the only thing, it does have a flavor to it. It's notorious for being dry. I understand why some people's recipes are dry. Like, I get it. All mine were dry before I found whey protein isolating. They weren't like super dry, but there was always a roughness to the swallow. And to be honest, in some of them there still is a roughness to the swallow because it's just coconut flour. You know, like I said, it's just dry, and you see in the video how it reacts with itself. It still gains my respect as one of my favorite gluten-free flours, and I only use 2. So I would never use almond flour by itself, and I don't use coconut flour by itself either. Gluten-free flours, they work better when you combine it with other things. I'm still trying to find out exactly, it's great for nut-free allergies, but what I thought I could do with sunflower seed flour was add the whey protein isolate, but that was a mistake. It doesn't work with sunflower seeds the way it works with coconut flour, so I'm still in the drawing board with those things. That's all I have for today as far as coconut flour. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comment section. You know where to reach me. I am Darius, the Sugarless, Crystal's just sugar-free destination of YouTube. I will see you guys next time. Bye. Been brought up to me. Oh, I'm sorry.